Topping today's news, a German tourist shot and killed by a masked gunman in quaint Camps Bay, South Andros. The Minister of National Security expresses concerns with the Director of Public Prosecutions. A fake funeral mortician on Grand Bahama appears in court, and the Chinese government looks to continue building on its partnership with the Bahamas. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. It's a pleasure to have you join us. A shock to a community in Camps Bay, Andros, following a double shooting that left one German national dead and another in hospital seriously injured. Criminal investigators from the Criminal Investigation Department, CID, here in the capital, traveled to Andros to investigate that incident, which police say unfolded shortly after 8 p.m. on Wednesday night. According to police, 3 German males were on the outside of their summer residence when they were approached by a masked male armed with a firearm. The men attempted to run inside the residence when the suspect opened fire on them, resulting in 2 of them being shot. The suspect then fled the area in an unknown direction. The victims were taken to the local clinic, and subsequently one of the males succumbed to his injuries while the other was airlifted to the capital for further medical assistance. Police on Andros are vigorously searching for the suspect. Police are also appealing to members of the public, especially residents of the Camps Bay area, who may have any information that can assist police with their investigation into this matter, to contact the police at the Criminal Investigation Department at 502-9991 or 2 Crime Stoppers at 328-TIPS, that's 328-8477, or the Camps Bay Police Station at 369-4733, 369-4733. This latest homicide pushes the country's murder count to 114. Now, upon hearing the news of the double shooting on Andros, Parliamentary Secretary and Member of Parliament for Central and South Andros and Mangrove Key, Leon Lundy, expressed his shock and anger and lamenting that he is grieved by this incident, an unprecedented incident for a small, close-knit community like South Andros. In a statement immediately following news of the shooting, Mr. Lundy says there is a reason Bahamians call them family islands, where for the most part there are peaceful, striving families living in a settlement where everyone knows everyone. Mr. Lundy, however, expresses confidence in the Royal Bahamas Police Force, considering investigators are early into their investigations. As the MP for South Andros, Mr. Lundy expressed condolences to the deceased's family and says they pray for a speedy recovery for the other victims impacted by this horrific ordeal. Mr. Lundy says justice must prevail. In other news, following a meeting between the Minister of National Security, Wayne Monroe, Commissioner of Police, Clayton Fernando, and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions regarding inadequacies with regarding to the managing of criminal prosecutions and a severe case backlog which affects the fight against crime, Minister Monroe explaining to reporters on Tuesday that police officers who are on the front lines in the fight against crime have expressed their concerns to him on a number of issues, giving scathing criticism to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions.
They're not pleased, for instance, that you could have a case for murder that is being defended by 2 Queen's Counsel and a number of junior lawyers, and he would not be doing it personally, and people at a higher level would not be doing it. That's regarded by the officers who work the case as being disrespectful to their work, and there is something to be said for that. Currently, we are encountering the issue, as you would have seen and been documented, of persons being admitted to bail for armed robbery murders, being ordered to be electronically monitored, breaching the terms of their bail insofar as that is concerned, going back to court, being fined in many cases, and not remanded.
Minister Monroe further explains that the issue is, considering the DPP is independently responsible for the prosecutorial system, the courts respond to what is going on currently. He says, as far as he knows, there have been no appeals to those decisions. He has requested the Minister of State for Legal Affairs, Jomo Campbell, facilitate a meeting as soon as possible.
If it can be within the course of this week, that would not be soon enough for me. It's a problem that we have put together an entire unit, an electronic monitoring unit, headed by, I think it's either a superintendent or an assistant superintendent. That is manpower directed towards the purposes that we monitor people. We need to have value and results for our efforts. I'm not satisfied that that is happening, and my job as minister isn't to do the police's work, but to respond to the police when they have issues that arise, and they put it to me, and I respond to them.
Minister Monroe further explains that the issue is considering the DPP is independently responsible for the prosecutorial system. The courts respond to what is going on currently. He says as far as he knows, there have been no appeal to those decisions. He has requested the Minister of State for Legal Affairs, Jomo Campbell, facilitate a meeting as soon as possible. In response to those criticisms in the handling of cases, Director of Public Prosecutions Garvin Gaskin says his team will continue to press for the due advancement of the criminal justice system, adding that he has been on a 7-month vacation and only recently returned to the office, and says he is looking forward to appropriately addressing any deficiencies in the legal and law enforcement systems. Meantime, in a statement from the Free National Movement, Chairman Dr. Dwayne Sands claims Minister Monroe has caught his foot in his mouth for what he perceives as an attack on the constitutionally independent Director of Public Prosecutions. The FNM chairman called for the Prime Minister, Philip Davis, to rein in what he described as a rogue minister because of Mr. Monroe's lack of discretion and complete disregard for the independence of this critical part of the Bahamian democracy. And finally, in this segment, despite there being some skepticism as to whether the new minimum wage of $260 per week will have the desired impact on the economy and in the pockets of those in the lower end of the pay scale, all of those members of Parliament supported the government resolution for the 2022 minimum wage increase in the House of Assembly this week. Minister of State in the office of the Prime Minister, Miles LaRota, said during debate that anyone who does not support such a resolution at this time obviously has never been in a position where they cannot provide for themselves or for their family.
In many cases, Mr. Deputy, it is through no fault of their own. Indeed, I will venture to say most people who exist in this desperate state are totally innocent. Mr. Deputy, some of us who have been fortunate enough to have been provided for by parents and relatives cannot empathize with our brothers and sisters who have not been so fortunate. As I drive around the island of New Providence, Mr. Deputy, I see a rising state of poverty in our communities. This should be a matter of concern for all of us.
Mr. LaRota wanted to remind those who refuse to acknowledge and not willing to help the poorest among us that poverty will affect us all one way or another, which is one of the reasons why he is supporting the resolution.
Poverty does not fall and die in the streets, Mr. Deputy. Poverty breeds desperation, and desperation manifests itself in unpleasant forms. My concern for these kinds of people compelled me to support this resolution. I want to know that Bahamians can purchase the medication they need to survive. Mr. Deputy, the cry of many suffering brothers rings so loudly in my ear, I cannot hear the other side. With those few words, Mr. Deputy, Pinewood supports this resolution.
The Member of Parliament for Carmichael and Minister of Immigration and Labor, Keith Bell, was the last to speak on the resolution on Thursday morning, and he too supported the resolution. Opposition members also support the resolution, but do not think it is enough to achieve the desired effects for a majority of Bahamians. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.